Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to another edition of the Toxic Happy Hour, where we are toxic towards scams that delay the adoption of global sound money. Today, we are honored to have Bitcoin Core contributor, programming legend, in my opinion, Jimmy Song in the house. Jimmy, welcome to Toxic Happy Hour. What are you drinking today, mate?
Well, I don't really drink, so I mean it's usually water or sparkling water or possibly tea. But and once in a while coffee if I'm going on a long road trip with my kids and I need to stay awake in the car. But that's about it. It's normally just water.
Good for you. That's the healthy way to live, man. You are healthy.
Well, I mean, you guys know why I don't drink, right?
Tell us.
No.
All right. So the reason is I went to Satoshi Roundtable like 3 years ago, and I'd been good the entire week, and it's like a 3 or 4 day event, and it's at a resort in Cancun. It's all inclusive resort. So I'd been good the whole week, right? During that time, I hadn't drank anything. I wasn't eating anything sugary. I'd been eating lots of meat, and it was all good. And then last night of the conference, and I am sitting with Max and Stacy, Max Kaiser and Stacy Herbert, of course.
Oh my God, yeah.
and Jameson Lopp, and basically, Max and Stacy were sort of like baiting me and saying, Jimmy, been here for a few days, and I haven't seen you drink anything. I haven't seen you eat any good desserts. This is an all-inclusive resort. What are you doing, Jimmy? I was like, all right, screw it. I'll drink something. What do I drink here? And they said, well, we're in Mexico and it's an all-inclusive resort. You got to have some tequila. And I was like, all right, I'll drink some tequila. And Jameson, without missing a beat, says, I'll go shot for shot with you. And of course, going shot for shot with Jameson, I found that later, is not a good idea because that man can drink. So over like the next 40 minutes to an hour or something like that, I did like 9 shots, right? And Stacy did like half shots, one for every 2 that we were doing and stuff. And I am losing all inhibition. So I end up eating like 5 slices of like rich chocolate cake, right? Because I had missed that. And I was just like eating chocolate cake, drinking tequila. And towards the end of it, I'm pretty smashed, and and more people join us, sort of like, and it's a conference, so there's more people coming. And at that point, I say probably the stupidest thing I could have said at that moment, which was, "Hey, did you guys know that Persians used to debate everything twice, once while sober and once while drunk?" And of course, Max Kaiser, without missing a beat, goes, "Oh, then we gotta have a debate then." I'm like, what are we going to debate about? And then he points out Amory Sachet, who's sitting like across from me, and he goes, well, we're going to have a debate about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. So he's like, I got to put it on my Periscope right now. And of course, he like records this like drunken debate between me and Amory. And it's still on his Twitter, by the way, if you go search for it. But anyway, after that, I look like an idiot. And the next 4 days, I like couldn't get out of bed because like my body just wasn't used to it. And my wife was just like, Jimmy, I'd like my husband back. When am I going to get my husband back? Because you've just been in bed the entire time. So I said, all right, I'll stop drinking for the rest of the. I'd learned my lesson, and I did that. I had a sip of champagne, I think, for New Year's Day. Just sort of like. Yeah. That was February of 2018. New Year's Day 2019. I had a sip of champagne. Before on New Year's, right after New Year's, and I think I had one other like steak dinner where I had some wine, but that was about it. Yeah, so I don't drink. That's why, because it's all Max and Stacy's fault.
I wish I would have learned that lesson. I wish I would have learned that lesson.
Let's see why you didn't learn the lesson. What are you having, Pubby?
Well, right now I'm finishing up some work in Western Africa, Jimmy. But here, of course, with the French influence, they have a lot of decent wine. So I'm flying out tomorrow, but I got to get rid of the wine that has sort of accumulated. So that's what I'm going with.
There you
And
go.
hey,
So you're drinking because you don't want to waste anything. Is that your
yeah,
justification?
it is my justification, and I can't let a guest embarrass himself like this without my own embarrassing story. We had Robert Breedlove on the show once, and I had started way too early and passed out on air in front of Robert Breedlove. So there you go. You
My co-author for the book. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So look, by pass I fell asleep. It was really late for me.
There you go.
I want to just say my story about when I first met Jimmy Song, which means I didn't meet him, I saw him on a live stream. And Jimmy, you probably know the story a little bit because I tweeted it sometimes. Because so I was watching Tone Base early 2017, and on comes this hardcore contributor to Bitcoin Core who hasn't been active on social media before. And I remember his comment that his Twitter followers were following the price of Bitcoin. At the time, I believe it was around 1,000 or 1,100.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. It was around that, and then it stopped correlating around like 2,500 or something like that. Yeah. Those were the days. I feel like I'm gonna get flippant at some point. You know, like Bitcoin price is gonna flip in my follower count, which is currently at 201,900. So you know, I think that's reachable. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we call those first world problems. Yeah, sorry about your luck there. Yeah. So hey, out of the gate, I mean, there's so much has happened, obviously in 2021 that we're going to get into. Before this, man, I came across a video of the one of the bet between you and Joe Lubin. And
oh yeah.
I'm curious on the backstory on this and how it turned out. But is it true you were up to get about 70 Bitcoin?
I think so. Somewhere around there. It wasn't. It was about 100 Bitcoin or around there. But yeah, I mean the bet didn't go through. So you know what can you do?
Yeah, that's too bad because. But you were absolutely correct because as you told him about Ethereum, I think the bet was going to be they had to have 5 DApps that were gaining 10,000 per day, and you were generous enough to say they didn't have to be consecutive for more than 16 days or 100,000 a month. I mean, and you've called it, man.
It was 60 daily active users, 100 monthly active users for any 6 months out of 12. So yeah. Not happening. I mean, like and you can see it in on-chain fees. Even if you have like one app that's doing that right now, there's no way you have like 5 of them. Yeah.
That's 3.5 million you're missing out on right now.
Jimmy, it's quite a lot. Yeah.
Jimmy, are you saying that Ethereum is doomed to burn in hell? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't want to use like biblical language, but I will say that it is a piece of crap, and I look forward to it burning like the hot mess it is. Yeah, in a giant dumpster fire, hopefully. Yeah, but I mean, what can you do though?
To go biblical, it is like literally the Sodom and Gomorrah of the Old Testament.
I would like to see that, but yeah, I don't know what a virtual Sodom and Gomorrah, fire and brimstone might look like, but yeah, I wouldn't mind something like that.
Yeah. So I think it's a cross between Ethereum and Peter Schiff is what it really looks like.
So, let me understand, Jimmy. So you actually won this bet on the conditions that you guys laid out, but Joe Lubin never paid you? Because that's a lot of Bitcoin.
No, well, all right. So here's what happened. So 2018 consensus, we were both on stage with Amber Balde, who does Clover or some public-private blockchain startup or something like that. Anyway, the 3 of us were on stage, and basically Amber, like we were supposed to get like 30 minutes or something, and Amber, of course, wanted to promote her new startup. So she took like the first 10 minutes and just like gave her presentation, which didn't make any sense. Everybody in the audience was like falling asleep because she was giving like generic words like, oh, we need this, and here are the companies that are coming along, and like just nobody understood what the heck the product was. So she was supposed to be sort of like the moderator to talk about, I don't know, something, and basically she started off with, hey, so what you guys think of my presentation? And Joe, of course, is very accommodating. He's just like, yeah, I think we need public private chain, bridges, and your company's going to do great, and blah 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 blah. And then she goes, Jimmy, what do you think? And like right at that point, I just said, to be honest, all I heard were buzzwords, and you can just feel the room just like perk up, right? Like they're like, just like everyone's like, wait, did he really say that? Because like you have to understand, it was like 5 p.m., right? Like they've been listening all day to this crap, just like pitch after pitch of like crap that doesn't make any sense and nobody understands, and then all of a sudden here's somebody on stage that actually said, hey, this might be all crap. So I said that, and I went on and I said, like it's all a bunch of buzzwords, and I'm very cynical at this point because I've seen so many pitches like yours that don't lead to anything, that don't do anything, and I just went on a rant for a few minutes, and like the energy in the room changed. And of course, both of them kind of took exception to it, and we were arguing back and forth. Anyway, probably like everyone told me best panel of the entire conference, like afterwards. And last question that she asked was, okay, 5 years from now, what will be like, what will come of blockchain? And of course, Joe Lubin's like, we're gonna disrupt every industry. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. Blah blah blah. And blockchain's gonna change everything. And I was like, look back 5 years ago, you had projects like Mastercoin and MadeSafeCoin and Factom. Like, have they done anything? No, they haven't done anything. So that, like, I think that, 5 years from now, we're probably going to see the same thing. And, that's what I think. And then Joe, right after I said that, said, if we can find some crisp criteria, I will bet you any amount of Bitcoin that you are wrong. And I was like, all right. we shook hands and everything. And that was sort of like the beginning of the bet. And of course, he tweeted afterwards, that was fun. Jimmy will be in touch. And of course, I tried emailing him back and forth. And basically when for like 3 months, I would email him. And then like 4 days later, one of his minions would email back with like with something like him, like basically like pushing me off. Right. He really didn't want to make the bet. 3 months later, I was talking to Laura about something at some conference. I was like, yeah, I don't know what it is, but he just doesn't want to finish this bet. And she was like, well, I know, Joe. Why don't we get the two of you on the show and we could finalize the bet? I was like, yeah, that sounds fine. Let's do it. So we had that show, Laura Shin, Unchained, or whatever, and we both went on the show. And we were both expecting Joe to finalize the bet. And we went over some terms, and, I had studied it, and I was like, 10,000 daily active users, 100,000 daily active users. You are on stage saying stuff like blockchain will disrupt Facebook. Facebook has 1 billion daily active users. If you can't even get to 10,000, like there's no, and 5 years from now is plenty of time to get to 10,000 and 100,000. That's a mid-tier app on Android or Apple. So I was like, that seems pretty good to me. And to keep the criteria crisp, let's do it on Ethereum and stuff. And he more or less agreed to it. But I was like, all right, so are we agreeing on the terms? And he's like, well, I got to go back to my people and blah, blah, blah. So he and like Laura was getting mad at him. She's like, I thought we were going to do this, right? Like, I thought you were going to finalize the bet. So he went back on it during Laura's show. So the next year, Consensus 2019, they asked me to speak again. And Joe, of course, was there. And I was like, and they asked me to come on like Consensus Live, which is sort of like their booth show for the conference. So they have some live content or whatever. And I was like, I would love to go. But, what I really want is for Joe to be there so we can finalize the bet. And they were like, okay, well, we'll ask. We don't think he'll say yes, but we'll ask. And he amazingly, he said yes. So, the Consensus Live had like Ron Paul on it and stuff. but the producers told me by far the most watched thing was that segment with me and Joe Lubin. And we hammered out terms and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, are we good? I was like, and we shook hands. He made me hug him and everything. I still feel a little dirty about that. But you know, we worked out terms, including, you know, exactly how much Bitcoin, and we made it so that it's like most pain, right? So if he wins, he gets Ethereum from me, and if I win, I get Bitcoin from him. Those were the terms. And I thought we had finalized it, and he was like, yeah, let's just gather the details. For the next 3 months, I did the same thing. I would email him, and he would write back like 2 weeks later. One of his minions would write back 2 weeks later, maybe. And it kept going like that. And like the last one I sent, he just like hasn't replied. So this bet hasn't been finalized, and that was at Consensus 2028. We're already in 2021. We're more than halfway through the bet, but like the guy's a coward. He never intended to bet. He said that on stage as a way to make himself look good, and you know, I mean, he would owe me a lot of money, but he refuses to do it. So you know, it is what it is, and
can I tell you guys how hardcore Jimmy is? Because I had to write this down because I had just come across this video clip, and I'm just laughing my ass off. I'll let you watch the video again, but you don't even look the guy in the eye. You have that disdain for him. You literally said the only reason that the DS exists is really to raise money from gullible people or greedy FOMO people.
Yep. That's
you said it right to his. You said that right to his face, and then I said, "I wanted to hurt you the most when you lose the bet." You're right. You wanted to maximize the pain. It was brilliant.
Max pain.
Max pain, man. You said that.
Yep. Yeah. And you know, he wanted like some certain conditions with like plasma and stuff like that. Stuff I knew would never really actually come on Ethereum. Like they've been talking about plasma for like over 2 years. Nothing has happened, right? Like this is the pattern with anything on Ethereum is that they usually do an ICO and raise some money and then do like basically go, I don't know, snort cocaine or something. I don't know what they do with it, but they basically like just waste everybody's money, and it's this giant scam, and everyone knows it is, but like they have to pretend for the sake of newbies or whatever.
Yeah, and you know, I want to introduce that first because there could be some newbies that watch this show, and let's get the scam stuff out of the way so they realize what that is, and now we can get into some of the good stuff. Bitcoin, Bitcoin 2020, Bitcoin going future in 2021. Anders, what do you think, man?
Yeah, Bitcoin is the most relevant. What can I say? So let's throw some of that in. So we spoke earlier about Jimmy, your followers in 2001, they're going up every single day. I bet here in the bull market, they probably go up with more than 1,000 followers every day. Anyways, but when do you think that the price of Bitcoin will flip your Twitter followers?
Probably by the end of the year. I think a conservative estimate for the end of year is around 100,000, but I think you know, a very aggressive mark would be like 500,000. I think it'll come somewhere in between those. But yeah, I mean, if it's like 300,000 or so, I don't see myself being able to increase 100,000 followers before the end of the year. So that by then it should flip in, but who knows? Like during bull runs, like it gets kind of crazy. I remember last bull run, I was getting, you know, over 1,000 a day. Right now I'm at like a few hundred a day. So I suspect that, you know, it'll get there, but it's, you know, there's velocity to think about and people coming on Twitter. I also don't know if there's, you know, Twitter is necessarily going to be sort of like the hotspot for Bitcoiners anymore. At some point, I think it'll transition. There's a lot of people going on to Mastodon servers, a lot of Bitcoiners on Clubhouse. So I suspect that the, you know, locus of, you know, Bitcoin Twitter or Bitcoin activity, which used to be on Bitcoin Talk, then it went to Reddit, then it went to Twitter. I suspect will transition again in the next year or two. And I don't know. It seems to like happen with these bull cycles because, you know, you know, the first site, like pre 2013, it was all Bitcoin talk, and then it became more Reddit between 2013 and 2017, and then it became more Twitter after 2017. I suspect it'll go somewhere else, but I don't know.
I take it, Puppy. Before we ask Jimmy what he's up to now, how do you feel about Jimmy's prediction for maybe? I mean, you didn't promise anything, but a potential flipping here.
Listen, I believe in Bitcoin is this otherworldly gift from the gods that will work itself out so that when Jimmy shows up on Miami, where we're going, Miami is a perfect spot for a yacht party. So I'm calling $100,000 yacht party in Miami. Okay.
I think
so
I think American Huddle already said something like that. Like, if it's over 100,000, he's just gonna go rent the yacht or something.
But a yacht, you have to Miami, man.
Wait, yeah, what does he mean? What does he mean? If we're talking June, what do you mean if?
Well, so he and I have a bet right now. So this is something that we did over Clubhouse, where, you know, basically May 1st, midnight May 1st, if Bitcoin has ever broken $100,000 between now and then, he wins the bet. If it hasn't, then I win the bet. And we owe each other a Wagyu A5 steak at a really fancy restaurant in Miami. We already have it scoped out. We're also supposed to show up as like hobos, so I got to wear like my sweatpants and like a shirt with a hole in it to a really fancy restaurant to go eat Wagyu A5 steak. So, I mean, either way, I think I come out a winner, because if it's 100,000, I'm happy enough to pay for a Wagyu A5 steak. If not, then, you know, like, then I get a Wagyu A5 steak for free. So either way, that's the bet. And he also has some plans for, you know, some yacht party or something like that if Bitcoin is over 100,000, or I forget the exact number, but he said, okay, like he actually looked up what it costs to rent yachts, and it was in the vicinity of $10,000 a night or something like that. So yeah.
Whoa, bowling, big bowling. Jimmy, so first of all, I like your type of betting here. It's the same I've done with Puppy, which basically means if Bitcoin goes really, really well, that is the time you have to pay up, which is you want to lose, and it's a kind of win-win for you. But hey, man, what are you up to now? I really want to hear about. You wrote a book.
That's right. I wrote this book, Thank God for Bitcoin. I wrote it with 7 co-authors, including a guest that you've had on before, Robert Breedlove. But it's a moral argument for Bitcoin, mostly from a Christian perspective, though if you're a believer in natural rights and natural law, I think it can easily apply to you as well. But it's a book that we wrote during COVID pretty much, and all the lockdowns. We had a lot of Zoom meetings to discuss various chapters and things like that. But yeah, it's we released it in November, and you know, it's been doing really well. It's available on Amazon. We're still working on the audiobook. We might have a hardcover pretty soon, but yeah, it's kind of exciting.
So this is not about programming. What is the not the plot, but what is exactly the book about?
Yeah, so it's the moral argument for Bitcoin. So everyone's made sort of like the investment case for Bitcoin, or the self-sovereign case for Bitcoin, or why you should allocate it into a diversified portfolio arguments or whatever. This one is a moral argument. We show how corrupt and unfair and you know, terrible the current system is, how it's just a cesspool of theft. And then we present Bitcoin as an alternative that's actually fair, where it's very difficult to steal and things like that. And basically we talk about like the current system and how it's just the current system being very, very immoral and having effects, you know, in politics, in our personal lives, and sort of our behaviors, even in churches. So we make that argument and then present Bitcoin in the last 2 chapters. So it's like a 9-chapter book. First 7 chapters are more or less about the current system and how it's terrible. and all of the moral consequences that come from it. And then the last 2 chapters are about Bitcoin and why it's so important and how it fixes basically all of these societal ills that are at root because of fiat, central bank backed fiat money.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what you call like a moral argument, because obviously the Christian side, mostly the Western world, that you would call a certain set of morality, and people always go back to I wouldn't say socialist view of Jesus and sharing things. I also like the morality of when you're on a flight and the plane is going down. Guess what? The first thing you do as a parent is you put the oxygen on your own face before you take care of your children. And to me, that's what Bitcoin is. That morality is you take care of your. The other people may not understand Bitcoin, but you take care of yourself because further down the road you'll be taking care of others with your Bitcoin. So you put that mask on first, and in a way, and it bleeds over to a lot of libertarian folks are here. Read Ayn Rand. Some people call it greed, but I would posit that the best people are the ones that own Bitcoin right now. If you want Bitcoin, if you want the greatest store of value in the world in somebody's hands, you want it in the hands of a Bitcoiner. They're usually smart, unassuming. They are the ones that see the future, and they will know what to do with it. They're not grifters. They're not people that are going to screw people out of their money. So I think it's fascinating because the terms, the morals, has many meanings to different people. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin fulfills every segment of it.
Yeah, and the big thing for us, and we do get into some of that, like the individual ability to opt out instead of sort of requiring a collective action or something like that in the last chapter. But for the first 7, it's really about just how we get screwed over by the money printer, and that's a major part of the equation that not a lot of people understand. And we specifically aimed it at Christians and said, hey, if you believe that stealing is wrong, right? 8th commandment, thou shalt not steal. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, here are the ways in which we are being stolen from with the current monetary system. And it's I wish I had used this term in the book, but it's essentially the money printer has a giant moral hazard, and they can benefit them and their cronies at the expense of everybody else. And that's something that is continuously happening. And it's very important for people to recognize that, because I think everyone knows that something is really seriously wrong with the economy right now. We haven't had any, a lot of businesses have been shut down for a whole year, and yet somehow the stock market is at all-time highs. The poor are getting poorer, the rich are getting richer. Something is really wrong. And people on both the left and the right are kind of like, hey, like, what's going on? I don't really understand what's going on. They're getting frustrated. They're going out on the street. They're protesting. Well, here I'm trying to explain all of that and saying, you know what, like you should be upset. Like there are things that have been happening over the last 108 years or so since the advent of the Fed that has caused all of the injustice that you see around you, and not just injustice, but corruption of all sorts of things. And here is why, and here is the solution, and that's what we hope that people will understand and pick up. We've had a lot of really good feedback so far from a lot of Christians that honestly haven't thought about this issue at all, which is interesting because to me, it's everywhere. You once you understand that, you really can't unsee it. But for them, it's just sort of like, what? When I take out a mortgage, it comes out of, it's printed out of thin air. That's like kind of new for them, right? For us in the Bitcoin community, for us that are part of, that understand Austrian economics, we understand that, when the bank lends you money for a mortgage, that money doesn't come from somebody's savings. It's just kind of made, printed out of thin air. And that's not something that a lot of people recognize. So, like those kinds of things are what we focus on and talk about in the book.
I love how this interview to me confirms Jimmy as a very compassionate person. Go give Jimmy a follow on Twitter. You'll find the link down below. And
No. So he's already got 200,000. You know, give Pubby a follow once in a while. Come on, he's got plenty. Jimmy's he's like the gold standard in a Bitcoin standard world. He is one of the top, man. So yeah, he's in your top 10. He's on the pantheon of follows on Bitcoin Twitter.
Oh, thank you guys. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
For good reasons. But not only should you follow Jimmy so you can find out more about the content he produces, like I'm sure you have a link there for your book if people want to go buy it. But also, of course, because Jimmy has totally promised us on this stream that the price of Bitcoin will be above his followers later this year. So let's get those followers up there. You promised.
I don't know if that was really a promise as much as a prediction, but yeah.
Yeah. Totally financial advice here. Financial advice.
No, we don't give financial advice. Jimmy Song gives financial advice.
Hey, is buying Bitcoin financial advice? I don't look. If you can tell people to just buy Bitcoin, it'll probably help them out. I don't know if it's financial advice.
It's not necessarily financial advice. I would say it's more advice to become more self-sovereign and be decoupled from the current financial system. And you know that's something that's happening in the current market right now. Is that like basically you can see that everything is in one way or another controllable by the Fed through their open market operations or lending facilities or changing the Fed funds rate or whatever. But what we're seeing is that there's a lot of people that want that are realizing that the current market has like no yield anywhere. So Bitcoin has a lot of yield, so it's starting to come into the market via MicroStrategy, Tesla, and various bond offerings. And I would not be surprised at all if in like the next 3 months you see a wave of companies that announce that they have a Bitcoin position because they're flush with treasuries, and there's probably going to be some that offer some sort of bond or a convertible note as a way to give bondholders some exposure to Bitcoin. So all that money is going to flow in. And that's in some ways scary, in some ways like exciting. I never expected hyper Bitcoinization to quite be this way, but it is a way, and it does make sense given just how much money that these corporations have.
That's a perfect segue because the narrative this year obviously got shifted with Michael Saylor, and corporations put it on a balance sheet that will hold for 100 years. You've been here longer than so many. Are you surprised when you look back in I think it was like 2013, perhaps when you started, how the narrative has shifted on Bitcoin? Because it's so many things to so many different people. Is it a money? Is it energy? You can take value. It's a time machine. You take your own value and you can send it to yourself in the future. How has sort of over these years your narrative changed? And what are you looking forward to now, since you have, Elon Musk and you got corporations now coming in? How has your sort of view of Bitcoin changed as a standard?
Yeah, so I think back in 2013, it was it was known more as like darknet money or something like that, and that kind of got shattered with the arrest of Ross Ulbricht, and then like the run up then, and that was like sort of like a big pivotal moment. Was Ross Ulbricht was arrested on October 1st, 2013, and I think the price of Bitcoin was around $100 that day. 6 weeks later, Bitcoin hit $1,100, right? Like it went on like a crazy bull run very, very quickly. And that narrative shifted there from, darknet money to something like, nice speculative asset or something like that. Some way, something new that people didn't really understand, but here was something that was going up in value. And it wasn't necessarily just for transacting. It was maybe something for storing. 2017, that was when like a lot of retail came in, especially in Asia, and that drove a ton of interest. And that was more around the narrative of here's like a new technology or something like that. And then more now it's the current narrative seems to be much more okay. Here's a way to hedge against the inflationary dollar, and I don't know. I don't know where the narrative will go next, but I suspect it'll be this one probably has legs. At some point, it'll be this is the standard by which everything else is measured, and if you can't keep up with Bitcoin, why do you have it in anything else? To some degree has already happened to like hedge funds and venture capitalists and things like that when their LPs are like, why are we paying you 2 and 20 when we could just put our money into Bitcoin? So I think that sort of like shift will happen over the next 4 years, but not sure exactly.
Right. I just want to go back to what we were talking about earlier about financial advice. Of course, we don't give any financial advice. We're trying to educate and entertain. But what I will say about buying Bitcoin is I would call it a compassionate advice. That's how I think all three of us see it, to tell people that it's a love for others and wanting to save them for the dilution of their savings, which has caused so much destruction in the world and suffering.
Yeah, and I think that's the idea behind, ironically enough, the meme "Have fun staying poor." Right? It's sort of like a warning to people. It's like, okay, well, I've tried to give you the best arguments and everything else, but you just seem to want to argue. Like we've tried our best, and we've tried to rescue you, but if you're not going to get on this boat, then have fun staying poor, right? Like it's sort of like. We've done our best, but we really can't do any more than this, and we're washing our hands of our responsibility in a way, and saying we've done our best. And if they don't want to come along, they don't want to come along. And there's a lot of people that are like that. And in that sense, it's kind of compassionate, despite it sounding really mean, and a lot of people like disliking it because it sounds mean.
I'll tell you what, if Satoshi Nakamoto decides to make an entrance again, I can guarantee you that will be, if you ask him what his favorite meme is, that will be it. Because as he even said himself, I don't have the time or inclination to tell you. Have fun staying poor is the perfect meme, and a shout out to Udi Wertheimer. Because, listen, man, it's just the final goodbye to all the naysayers. All the Peter Schiffs in the world, everyone has just been hanging, like, look, we're done. You know what? We're going to continue on. I don't feel the need to explain anymore to people what Bitcoin is and how it saves them, because it's been preached ad nauseum, and here we are. So yeah, have fun staying poor, enjoy what you do. And it's not, something where you just tell them they're not going to be literally poor. I think I said it to Raul Paul before he blocked me, but if they're poor in spirit.
Yeah, they'll be they'll come around, I think. The thing is, like, a lot of people are going down the altcoin rabbit hole, and the thing is, a lot of those people will be back, unless they have like such large egos that they can't admit that they were wrong, which actually happens to plenty of people too. But there's always going to be capitulation, and it just takes time. That's all.
So I had someone hang up on me on the phone the other day because I said that Bitcoin Cash is B trash. Why are you calling it Bitcoin Cash? And I wasn't even saying have fun staying poor. Of course, you can't tell that to people that don't understand the meme. It's a compassionate joke. But hey, Jimmy, I wonder. So Pubby got into it a little bit before. As I see it, I think as Pubby sees it as well, right now the dollar is being not only attacked but publicly attacked by MicroStrategy selling convertible bonds, taking on dirty fiat debt, and then buying Bitcoin. That is like a very obvious, like it's a listed company in United States, the biggest stock market in the world. How do you view that? And do you think that we will see any similar things happening from countries, or are they just going to keep it secret? That was a lot of questions. You just take one of them.
Yeah. So what MicroStrategy did, as far as I can understand it, is they're providing a vehicle for bondholders to get some Bitcoin exposure. And they basically went out to the market, basically told them, hey, we're going to buy Bitcoin with this. And it was oversubscribed the first time by 33%, the second time by like 66%. So you can see kind of where it's going. It was first issue was 450 million. They ended up at 600 million. Second one, they started at 600 million. It ended up at 1.05 billion. So there's a lot of money that wants Bitcoin exposure, and that's not surprising because there's no yield in any of the bond markets. They're all just sort of depending on central bank interest rates to go down even further, and there's not that much down to go. They're already at like the 10-year treasuries was at 80 basis points or something like that, and increased recently. But they're like, if you start going negative, I mean, you really have to keep going as they have in Europe, and that way lies madness. And there's some crazy things that happen at that level. But because of that, a lot of these bondholders have wanted some exposure. So he's just tapping into that capital. They want to do they want an asset like this desperately, and Michael Saylor is providing it to them. Now, are there going to be others that do it? Absolutely, because that trade is so profitable. The second issue, which closed last week, has a 0% coupon. So essentially, all these bondholders are buying just call options. That's all they're doing. If it goes above the strike price, then they make money. If they don't, then they just get their money back. So it's sort of like an interesting sort of situation, but they're totally willing to do that. There are other people that will want something similar, and they'll probably pay a lot of money for it, because I mean the oversubscription suggests that there's a great demand for exposure to Bitcoin. So I suspect that MicroStrategy will probably continue doing it, and once Bitcoin hits a certain price and MicroStrategy is above the strike price, they'll probably do another issue again, because at that point, like for the bondholders, it doesn't really make sense to like hold it. They'll probably all convert or something like that, especially with a 0% coupon. At least the other one has a 75 basis point coupon, and you don't. Like, as long as you hold it until the day you convert, you get paid that coupon. So it like kind of pays to like hold on to it. With this one, like it's a 0%. It's 0%. So I mean, maybe the next one he makes it like negative 0.5% or negative 1%, and then like makes the strike price higher.
Wait, I gotta jump in on this real quick, Anders. Come on, give it to Pubby for a second, because the negative thing. Yep, thanks, man. No, I gotta say it because I was listening to Preston Fish today. He said the same thing. He told Saylor, he goes, the next one will be negative. The next one you can go negative. Yep. Okay, Anders, that's all I was gonna say.
It really depends on like whether he gets more competition. So Tesla could probably issue bonds that are similar and get maybe $1 billion without too much trouble, especially because they especially if they give them some sort of convertibility, so they get exposure to the Tesla stock, and they could just buy lots of Bitcoin with that if they wanted to. I don't know if Elon is necessarily interested. I suspect that like the companies that are more likely to do that are the companies that maybe are not getting much press. Their stock price is languishing or something like that, but they have a strong cash balance sheet. Then it would make sense for them to go do something like that and then start correlating with Bitcoin. At which point, like, they can make tons of money just being sort of like the middleman to the bondholders or to the bond market or to the equity market or whatever, many of whom want some Bitcoin exposure.
I like it. Jimmy, so there was something you said previously that I just want to ask you further on. You said that a MicroStrategy can do their next round of selling corporate convertible bonds to buy more Bitcoin once they reach the strike price. You made me think of something, and please, tell me exactly what you mean. So are you saying that we already now know that MicroStrategy's stock needs to reach a certain level because he can do the next one, because then it's converted from debt to
equity,
to equity, and therefore all of a sudden his debt to equity falls to the floor, and he can take on more debt. So do we already now know at which stock price level that MicroStrategy has to go to, and what is it?
Well, so the previous one, I think the strike price was 350 or something like that. MicroStrategy stock price right now is like 9 something. So it's long been been past that mark, and so all those bondholders are very happy because they've made a significant return on their investment. This round, the strike price, I think I calculated, is around 1480 or something like that. Their current stock price is like 950, 980, somewhere around there. So as Bitcoin price goes up, that will correlate. And once it passes that and gets, say, MicroStrategies goes to 2,000, 3,000, somewhere in between there, I suspect that they would do another convertible note and probably price it maybe like 70% above whatever stock price that they're at, and maybe go negative on the actual bond coupon. So you actually have to pay money or something to that effect.
This is really, really interesting. This is something, I mean, I didn't think about this before. This is really interesting. I didn't know that their debt would kind of disappear because it goes to equity, because that raises a very, very important point. And that is that as Bitcoin's price go up, which we all expect because of the lack of supply, or the supply that went down to half since the halving last year, 11th of May, when the mining reward was cut in half. As the price goes up and his equity is so much higher, that means he can increase the quantity that he is he's buying of Bitcoin. At least dollars going into Bitcoin.
Essentially, the sum of MicroStrategy stock will become more and more Bitcoinized. Like the typical playbook in corporate America has been to, issue a bond of some kind and then use that money to buy back stock, and that has sort of kept up a lot of stock. So, for example, IBM over the last 20 years has spent something around $170 billion in stock buybacks. Their current market cap's like 160 billion. So it kind of goes to show that they haven't been using that money wisely. But if you plow it into Bitcoin, now you have a treasury asset that's appreciating in value. This might be the new playbook. And instead of buying back your stock, you dilute your shareholders, but in return they have this really nice asset on the balance sheet of the company.
We're getting a lot of requests from the chat, Jimmy, and I think this is, I mean, obviously, since we now have a technical genius on Toxic Happy Hour, can you take us into something about and tell us what's the status on implementing Taproot, Schnorr signatures, and what are the advantages? What do you expect that to do from Bitcoin? And excuse me for probably even saying the question wrong, because I don't know too much about these technical programming things.
Yeah, so Taproot is a soft fork, and it includes a lot of things, and it's sort of going in as a big lump soft fork. Currently, it's in the Bitcoin Core client already. The activation mechanism hasn't started yet. That'll probably go out in the next half release, which is probably in a couple of months or so. The core developers have decided that BIP8 is probably the best signaling mechanism. The previous one was BIP9, which was based on a timestamp. This one is based on the number of blocks. So there's about a year's worth of blocks where we'll have, miners will have to have a chance to signal that they're ready for this soft fork. If 95% of miners signal that they're ready, then it will, it will trigger sort of like a countdown for Taproot activation, which will be 2 weeks after. I think, and at that point, it'll be live on the network. So it's pretty much all coded. It's been reviewed. It's ready to go. It's just a matter of how to activate it. There's some controversy around what happens if after a year, like users, like the miners don't signal readiness. What do the users do? And I think it would be at that point something like a user activated soft fork could happen. But there was some controversy about what the default would be. So lock in on timeout equals true versus lock in on timeout equals false. False means that the client doesn't enforce SegWit rules. I mean, not SegWit rules, Taproot rules. If it's true, then it does enforce Taproot rules after the 1 year timeout. So lock in on timeout equals true means that as a user, if you set that to be true on your node, then no matter what, it'll get activated. Whether the miners come along or not is kind of up to them, sort of thing. Whereas equals false means, okay, well, I'm willing to consider, their arguments and whatnot. None of the developers seem to think that this is at all controversial, like SegWit was in 2017. So I expect it to activate, but this is sort of like one of those things that a lot of people are arguing about. Maxwell is on one side of the argument, Luke Dash Jr. is on the other, and a lot of others. As far as the benefits, you get better privacy right now. Single sig addresses and multi-sig addresses have very different formats. So in pre-SegWit, the addresses starting with a 1 were single sig. Addresses starting with a 3 were all sorts of things, but mostly multi-sig. And it was very obvious to anybody. Similar with SegWit, you have BC1 with a certain length. That's all single sig. BC1 with a longer length, that's obviously multi-sig or some fashion thereof. With Taproot, what you get is one address type for everything, and it's using something very clever from Greg Maxwell, which means that there's a lot less penalty, or there's basically no penalty to having a whole bunch of conditions. And it's using something like mass, so you can have multiple conditions for unlocking the coin. So you can have a single sig, or you can have, or it can get unlocked by 5 of 5, where the 5 people are your like friends that don't know each other or something like that. That could be like an effective way to back up, in case you completely screw up and lose your wallet. You contact your 5 friends and say, can you unlock these coins for me and send it to me? Things like that. You can, in that mass tree, you can have all sorts of different conditions. 2 of 3 from these people, 5 of 7 from these people, 8 of 11 from these people, 19 out of 35 from these people, or something like that. And that it really makes it very, very flexible. And, it's better for privacy, obviously, because the anonymity set is, everyone's under the same anonymity set. You don't have one set for single sig and one set for multi-sig. You have just, one thing. It's just pay to Taproot addresses. Also, you have the ability to name a lot of different conditions. Previously, you had to reveal all the different conditions that could be done in order to unlock your coins. If there were like more than 3 conditions, or you would have to reveal all 3. or all of the ones from your script. Now you only reveal the one condition that you are actually unlocking with. So nobody watching on chain can tell, okay, well, they had these two other ways to unlock it. And, a lot of those can have various timeouts or time locks and things like that. So it could be something like before 2030, it requires, my signature or 3 of my friends. After 2030, when should I die or something like that, then only 2 of 3 of my friends can unlock it, something like that. So there's all sorts of interesting use cases that this makes possible, and it gives you better privacy. And yeah, I didn't even get into Schnorr, but that also adds privacy as well.
Yeah, I think Pubby and I dare not walk down the Schnorr line right now.
It's awesome.
Wow, blown away here, not fully understanding everything. But Jamie, I take it overall, this is good for Bitcoin, right?
I think so. It'll be up to wallet developers to actually implement a lot of this stuff. And that's where I think a lot of work needs to be done, and it'll take some time. But that's
I got a question on that, Jamie, because anyone for the last 3 years, 4 years, you come in after the whole Mt. Gox, I don't know, for lack of a better word, a fiasco. For is you come in and you're new to Bitcoin, which obviously, is a sort of a mind picture at a minimum, and you have people coming in then saying, you hear, not your keys, not your coin, never leave it on an exchange. What are you doing? And I'm trying to look back over the last 3 years. How are you making it easier for people to come in and secure their Bitcoin without, people aren't techies, man. Some don't have the knowledge to, I got a cold card, I got my 24 Cs, I'm gonna backdate this. Where do you see the future of securing your Bitcoin to make you a sovereign individual?
Yeah, honestly, people have to kind of level up, and it takes some time. It takes some experience, and you just sort of have to learn some of these processes and learn what the heck you're doing. And it's only then that you can really set up something like a multi-sig or whatever. But that's going to take some education, some motivation on their part. A lot of people are happy just keeping their coins on Coinbase. I don't think that's a very good thing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
But a lot of people do it, and that can be a problem. And this one of the things that's like one of the most often asked questions on Clubhouse is, what hardware wallet should I use? How do I do it? And there's a lot of different recommendations, and people are leveling up in that way, and that's great. But it's really individuals that want to level up, that want to take less risk, or secure their coins against confiscation or something like that are ultimately going to lead to this. So it's going to take some time, but I think we'll get there, especially if the government does something crazy, which isn't out of the realm of possibility at the moment.
So what do you think looking forward here? And to me, we're already a digital country. I think over 90% of what we do, is through just your debit card, credit card. When CBDCs take over, how do you see that playing into Bitcoin? Will they try to tie it in and pretend to be tied to Bitcoin? How do you see the future of the transition? And there's a hyper Bitcoinization in my mind that happens when you have it as a store of value. How do you see it transitioning to become a medium of exchange?
Yeah, I don't know. I like, as far as CBDCs go, I heard a theory which was interesting, which is that that's a play by central banks to cut out all the middlemen. Right now, you have commercial banks and retail banks that are, member banks of like of the central bank. And a central bank, you can think of it as like a bank for banks, right? And they use, at least in the United States, the ACH system. I think in Europe it's like the SWIFT system, but You have a bank
Yeah.
for banks, and that way they can do the transfers really quickly. If you have a central bank-backed digital currency, what you can do is cut them out, and everyone just has an account with the central bank, right? And that's your account, one giant ledger for everybody. And you know there is some merit to that, because you cut out all of these, you know, commercial banks, and like that's a lot of inefficiency, right? They're determining things, but then it also gets very bureaucratic, because you know, how do loans originate, and who gets them, and things like that has to essentially come from some bureaucrat now at the central bank. You know, which in itself will be very strange, I think. You know, to have that. But that said, it makes it super convenient for governments. So right now, one of the big problems in sending out checks to everybody for the government is that they have to know what your bank account information is, and a lot of people don't have bank accounts. With the CBDC, what you can do is give every single person an account with the central bank, at which point you can just credit their account, and bam, that's it. Now, there's a lot of problems and security things around that, including like securing them and things, which I think is going to be a giant disaster. But that's something that we really have to watch for. But that said, I don't think this matters for Bitcoin, really. It's just a play for central banks.
Yeah. Here's my concern with the CBDCs is that they can automatically penalize you for keeping any type of value stored in the bank. You see, there's something major there.
They can have negative interest rates or whatever. Yeah,
and I think that's pretty damn important. Other people may not, but the fact that they can literally just give it a negative interest rate right away. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I mean,
that's why we buy Bitcoin, and if they create a central bank digital currency, they're creating a really super smooth, easy on-ramp. Like, you don't even need to go through an exchange. You just like, oh well, I guess you on an exchange have to exchange your CBDC to Bitcoin, but it's going to be an awesome on-ramp. There's no way central banks can ever create a money as good as Bitcoin.
I see your point. They'll find a way, but yeah, the great thing about cash was always, look, you had a little bit of sovereignty and privacy in what you spent your cash on. When you go to CBDC, you're going to be forced to basically, as soon as you get paid, you got to transition that somewhere. And yeah, you're right. From our side, it goes into Bitcoin. Other people won't get it. Older generations, and they're going to lose their ass.
That is why we take care of them. What do you say, Jimmy? That's why we take care of them, but we stack for our families.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that's exciting, because like you have more certainty for the future. That's really money's role, and that's you know, to make the future a little more certain for ourselves, so we can plan better and things like that. I think Bitcoin's been doing great for that. You know, I feel pretty secure in my future, which leaves my mind to write books and things like that. So, you know, hopefully that's the case for a lot of the people that are watching the show.
So I know you said you think by end of the year, maybe 500,000. There's a lot of pushback and a lot of things we talk about here because we just love the conversation. Yeah. So how are you when it comes to Plan B, stock to flow model, a fun gimmick that he gives to the space? Obviously, may not take into account all the printing going on. I just think it's fascinating that a guy that offered up a model takes a lot of heat in some respects and is loved in others. I just find it so fascinating because it's so polarizing. Where do you fall in the camp here?
Yeah, so I did a podcast with him last week, and I released it. It's like my most popular podcast I've ever released. But you can go check it out. But we talked about a lot of that and talked about like why like how do you account for all the fiat money printing and stuff? And he's like, well, you can measure it against gold, and he thinks by the end of this cycle, by his stock to flow model, right now it's at around 30 ounces of gold. He thinks it'll end up at about 100, and I think that's not a bad call. And we'll be able to see. And I mean, as far as models go, all models are wrong at some point. It's just a matter of when is this model wrong. If it survives this cycle, I think there's a very good argument to be made that it'll basically predict the next cycle as well, at which point we're in the millions. So it's very exciting. We've had an interesting 4 years. The next 4 years might look even more interesting.
So do you think there's another cycle with a bear market before with a capitulation in the end, and the uptrend starts until the next halving? Do you see a bear market, or is this hyper Bitcoinization with a few slaps in the face of minus 40, 50?
I used to think that this wouldn't be the final cycle, but I can't eliminate that anymore. There's just too much stuff going on with Bitcoin going into these like financial assets that it feels like it really could get to the point where you get like a tremendous amount of Bitcoin investment. We hit a certain number, and then like everybody and their grandma is coming in. I mean, in retail that's been true. In the institutions, that hasn't been as true, but it might very well get there very quickly.
I have to agree with this because, it's one thing. Look, I couldn't have picked Michael Saylor out of a lineup in March. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's come on the scene, and look, for his company is small potatoes in the world of institutional money. Let's be honest. But that guy actually made it a viable option to buy Bitcoin. He made it a viable thing to put on his balance sheet. Oh, by the way, his first few stacks were at $11,000 Bitcoin. He's turned $1 billion almost into $3 billion in the course of 6 months. And that's one thing. So any CEO or CFO can go to the board and say, well, there's a guy that has tried this. Now you get Elon Musk, the richest guy in the world that does it. How in the hell are they not going to do it? Because then you lose your job. You lose your job if you don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, from what I'm hearing, it takes corporations are slow and they have to change their bylaws and stuff like that. But 6 months from now, I think you're going to see a flood of it, and we'll see what kind of impact that has on everything. But it could very well mean a really, really big price. Yeah, we'll see though.
Yeah, $1 million is on the table if things really start to unfold, because I think a lot of
I'm saying it, but yeah, I think you might be right.
Oh, you heard it? Buy Bitcoin, $1 million. Jimmy Song called it.
Well, no, I'm saying it's on the table. I'm not saying
Same here. I say it's on the table. I'm not giving that as like, I don't want to put my name on it because I like to give conservative estimations so that people are positively surprised and they never come crying back and said, oh, it's only at 200 whatever. I don't want them to come and say, oh, it's only at 900,000 and you mentioned 1 million. So I say I feel very, very, very confident that we're definitely at least hitting 300,000. I don't see any scenario in this universe or parallel universes where we're not hitting 300,000. But Jimmy, I have like a very, this is a question that a lot of people really want to know. I know since the beginning of the show, will you have a shot, just one shot with me and Pubby in Miami?
I don't think so. I really stopped drinking. My liver just does not handle it. And yeah, like I can't. It's if I had a shot, I'm sure it would affect. Like this is the thing. Like the reason why caffeine works for me when I go on long drives with my family or whatever is that my system. I don't drink much caffeine, so when I drink caffeine, it really like works. Like I'm like wide awake for like the next 8 hours, and like my mind's going crazy, thinking of all kinds of things. Similar effect would probably happen with any sort of drink, as it would probably affect my whole system. And given that I've lost some weight, during this pandemic and things like that, eating so much meat, I suspect that it'll have more of an effect than it would otherwise.
We'll make it
I'll do a shot of like water or something. No problem.
Perfect.
On that.
No, I think in a situation like this, we'll find some low-fat milk, and you can have a shot of that.
I don't like milk that much, so yeah, I'll do something else. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Whatever. Anything. Water. Put sparkling water. Pubby and I would be glad to say hi to you in Miami. I can't honestly myself wait for that conference. So I've known Pubby for more than 3 years now. He's become one of my best friends, and we still haven't met, but it's going to happen in Miami, COVID or not. I'm coming down there. And by the way, so those who didn't buy their tickets yet and want to go, we have a link. We don't get any referral or commission, but there is a link down below where you get 21% if you buy with dirty fiat, and price goes up, I think, every month. So get general admission and after party, and we could see you in Miami. It's code to buy is Toxic21.
All right, that sounds good. Yeah, I keep hearing this gonna be like over 5,000 people or something crazy like that. So
well, yeah. Hey, look, man, I'm more excited to see Tony Hawk, man. That was the guy, man, back in the late '80s. He's a boy. Yeah, Tony Hawk is there. Obviously Jack Dorsey, allegedly. We'll see.
We'll see.
Jimmy Song, are you speaking in Miami?
I am.
Yep.
And what will you be? Do you know what your topic is, or is that going to be something?
No idea. Like, well, I'll find out when I get there, or like a few weeks before or something, and then go from there.
Can you just mention when you do our discussion of that now the price is above your Twitter followers? If it happens, just give us that.
Yeah, I'll say something about that. Yeah.
All right.
If that price is above there, I'm gonna buy you a shot of tequila and throw it down your throat myself.
If it gets above that, I might just buy a shot for everybody that wants to.
Thank you. There we go. That's a deal.
There we go. All right.
Yep.
Show is hereby a success. No, but Jimmy, I will say, look, no one should be drinking alcohol if they don't want to. You can pull out of that one.
No, of course not.
So, but I'll take. We'll talk about it in Miami for sure. So,
sounds good.
Pubby, do you have other questions for Jimmy apart from let's say percentage probability of Bitcoin going hyper Bitcoinization in this cycle? We still have more than 3 years to go to reach hyper Bitcoinization, hyperinflation of the currently in real time collapsing dollar. Or do you have questions for Jimmy?
No, I mean I think we touched on most of the things. Jimmy's always been a class act in the space. He's one of the legends in my mind that everyone should follow. So yeah, let's get him up to 300,000. Just an all around, one of the smartest guys you'll find here. So yeah, I just appreciate the time that he took to join us, have a good time, bring the signature cowboy hat, because that's where we're going, man. And I'm looking forward to.
Hopefully I don't have to auction that off. People keep making me auction it off. I really like this one, so I might have to bring a cheaper one.
Hey, you just start you go mainstream, you wear it for like 5 seconds, and then you can sell it off as an official Jimmy Warren. Okay,
I have to tell you about this hat. This hat right here is from Texas Hatters, and it's a custom-made hat for my head. It's beaver pelt over here, and it's straw up here. So it wasn't cheap, and I got it when Bitcoin hit 10,000 as part of a deal that I made with somebody. So I really do. I'll bring some other one, and it's got like a different band and stuff like that. I'll bring another one for the conference just in case people make me auction it off.
And how much is a hat like that?
It was expensive. It was expensive, more than I've paid for probably all the other hats I have combined. Yeah,
more than your scarf, Anders. It was more than your scarf.
For sure. Jimmy, can we see the feather in the back? And once you've shown that, I would say Pubby probably had. I don't know. Yeah, show us the feather. I'd love to see that. And also, there we go. I don't know if that is feather, but it's looking nice.
So this is a hat band, and I like this one because it's got like a little Texas symbol on it and stuff. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I have different bands for this, so you get a slightly different look. But yeah, I mean, there's so many reasons I like this hat, and yeah, you guys aren't getting this one. No.
All right.
Not yet.
Jimmy, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it, and I can see that Chad really enjoyed you coming on. We really appreciate you taking the time to educate your free time, and this was just like when you did a meetup for me in Los Angeles in October 17 when we met at crypto conference, which was we all came for the Bitcoin, but it was all ICO hell. It was terrible. But let's hear some final words from you, Jimmy. Just thank you very much.
I mean, it's been an interesting few years. The bull market is here, so enjoy this time, guys. I know we have a dip right now, and who knows, maybe this is the first dip that Tone's been talking about. He thinks it'll be a double swing highs this year or something like that. But hey, it's not a bad time to be and hang out, enjoy yourself.
Thank
I would
you.
just say this.
Puppy, final words, Puppy. We gotta let Jimmy go. Free Jimmy.
Yep. Free Jimmy. Hey, listen, our stuff goes until we see at least 5 free whoever our guest is in a row. I will say this: at the end of the day, people forget Bitcoin is up 50 this month. After this pullback, people have short memories, man. The shortest damn memories in Bitcoin. We're up, less than a month ago, we're at 38,000. Okay, so yeah, you know what? Stack your corn, people. Stack your corn and stop being weak-handed. No, Jimmy, thanks for coming on, man. Moving forward, I'm quite bullish. I think this is the end game, because the corporate game plan has been set, and too many people will lose their job if they do not put Bitcoin on their balance sheet.
Indeed.
All right. So on that note, thank you, dear viewers. Thank you, active chat. You make us laugh. Again, thank you, Jimmy. And on that note, I just want to say, really do be careful not to store more value in dirty fiat currency, because it has a built-in policy of stealing the value of your savings. And they've even convinced you that it's in your interest to steal the value of your savings by printing more money. So think, and listen to the compassionate advice, not financial, to buy Bitcoin. Jimmy, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. See you on the next one. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.